Being an entrepreneur has never been more sexy. Think about it. Mark Zuckerberg, Mark Cuban, everybody wants to be an entrepreneur, but it's not easy. We're talking about entrepreneurship next on The Jeff Crilley Show.
Many are predicting that the worst is yet to come, which is unfortunate, said one person here. Until now, they've enjoyed the reputation of being the nation's icebox.
Watched a burglar in his home this morning by webcam.
As a journalist of over 25 years, stories are what make my world turn.
Reporting live from the Dallas newsroom tonight, Jeff Crilley, Fox 4 News.
But in 2008, I took the jump from my familiar life and started a PR firm from my home.
We're talking about anyone with a camcorder like the one I'm using becomes a television network.
We started slowly growing the company, and we now have over 100 clients, and we've branched into the world of live digital broadcasting. I now own 8 different TV studios and have a huge team, and the stories that I now get to share are sometimes the most important of my life. Life has a funny way of coming around full circle. This is The Jeff Crilley Show.
Today we're talking about entrepreneurship, and with 40 million Americans out of work, a lot of them are probably thinking, well, maybe I should start something in my garage. It worked out pretty good for Steve Jobs. Well, it's not for everybody. To talk about entrepreneurship, Aaron Gathmann, he is the executive director of the North Texas Angel Network. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Jeff. Great to be on.
Okay, now when I was going to college, and I can't speak for you, but when I was going to college, they didn't even have entrepreneur classes. You were told, go work for General Motors, keep your nose clean, and get a gold watch after 40 years. But these days, I mean, they have entrepreneur programs in almost every university. Are you seeing a new breed of entrepreneurs?
Yes, I mean, certainly it has become very sexy over the last 10 to 15 years. You know, I do think it is good to have some corporate experience lots of times before jumping into entrepreneurship, although there are a lot of great accelerator programs and other ways out there to educate yourself on how to build a company. But it's good if you need investment to understand some of the basics as far as accounting and legal and all the things that make a company investable.
Yes. Well, let's talk about the Angel Network. A lot of people are fans of Shark Tank, and
Sure.
Is that kind of what angel investors are?
To an extent, probably don't have quite the checkbook of the folks on Shark Tank, but it's a similar sort of thing where companies, you know, every month or so come in and present to our group, or more recently doing a lot of presentations on Zoom meetings online. And you know, the companies will give their 5 to 10 minute pitch talking about what they do, where they're at with the business, and then we will grill them on, you know, is it an investable company? Where are they going in the future? What are they going to do with the money if they get it from us? And so, yeah, it is essentially a version of that.
And you recently took over. Tell us more about your resume.
Sure. So, yeah, I took over at the beginning of this year. And I have been involved with startups since 2009. I started my first startup as a CFO and co-founder of a wind energy development company. Prior to that, I had worked for PricewaterhouseCoopers, Bear Stearns, and BBVA Compass, both as an auditor, commercial banker, credit analyst. And when I left the wind energy company, I started investing in startups, consulting with startups, had a few ventures here and there that were not as successful. But have really been involved in that world and have no desire to go back to the corporate world.
Yeah, well, you're great to take over this network that absolutely needs leadership, especially during a pandemic. I can safely say that you're the first executive director that had to suffer through a pandemic. What's that been like?
It's been a challenge. You know, it wasn't the best timing as far as trying to roll out new strategies, and then that hits, and you know, the likelihood of people wanting to invest in very high risk startups, they're concerned about their stock portfolio losing a lot of value. So you know, there's certainly a little bit of a hiccup in the timing there, but I think most people have adjusted to where we're at. They understand there's going to be certain things that we don't really know when they're going to clear up. But really that just kind of refocuses on the industries and sectors that are attractive. It does create some opportunities, but you just if you want to invest in early stage companies, you have to adjust.
So when people pitch their ideas to your network, what are some do's and don'ts? What are some mistakes that you've seen people make as they're making their pitch?
I would say the first thing is talk less. People that try to over-explain, really just clearly state what you're trying to state, let them ask questions. They're the ones that are ultimately going to be potentially writing you a check. So it's important that they get their questions asked. So I would say that's the number one thing, is just being as concise and direct as possible, not over-explaining. And really just having a good strategy of where you're going from point A to point B. The whole, hey, if you give me this money now, it's going to be worth hundreds of millions of dollars in a couple of years is not believable. Tell me the believable path of where you're going to be in the next 6 months, 12 months, 18 months. And then, if your expectations are realistic, maybe you get a check.
Tell me some success stories of angel investing. I mean, whether it's with this network or others that you're familiar with. What's your favorite story of they made a small investment and now look at the company today?
Oh, geez. So I guess over the years, our network has funded over $10 million in a few dozen companies. There's a company right now, Linear Labs, that was funded years ago, and they have a technology related to electric motors. And so they're continuing to raise money, but it's definitely grown in valuation quite a bit. And they have a lot of support now from City of Fort Worth, where they're looking to expand manufacturing and really roll out the product. Really, it's just great to see any company that is able to do productive things with, someone that's willing to take the risk with them and ride on board with them through the thick and thin. Of course, there's all sorts of examples of the anything from a dating app that could be something that seems whatever quirky, and then it sells for $800 million. It just really depends on where things are at. And
yeah, well, you and I are both fans of Phil Romano, and he says in his book that a lot of the money he made was investing in a heart stent
right.
that was later sold to Johnson & Johnson for hundreds of millions of dollars. And I think his investment was fairly modest compared to his return. So there are wonderful success stories. How do you weed through applicants? I mean, I imagine there's a lot of people who want to present.
Yeah, we probably get over 30 to 40 applications a month. And what I do is I present those to our members, kind of summarize the information, what the opportunity is. These are busy people that don't have time to dig through all this. So try to succinctly summarize the information as quickly as possible so that you can decide whether or not it's something that you want to hear more information on. With our network, we're serving the interests of the members. So if somebody says, hey, I like that deal, then I'll get more information from that entrepreneur. I like that deal. Personally, I like, SaaS business, software as a service, companies that can scale quickly, that are very capital efficient. But we'll look at any company that someone's interested in. Ideally, you have some traction with, if it's a product, you have a prototype that's ready for manufacturing. You have a manufacturing plan. You know what it's going to cost. You know who's going to do it. If it's something else, hopefully you have some customers. And always, I think a growing base of happy customers is a pretty obvious good signal that you're doing something right.
Outstanding. You've been an amazing guest. Aaron Gathmann, Executive Director of the North Texas Angel Network. Thank you for coming on the show. We're going to put your website up. It is northtexasangels.org. Plug into that and follow them on social media. Aaron, thanks again.
Thank you, Jeff.
You bet. That's it for now. We'll see you next time.